Hello, fourth graders. Welcome to our week 4 of robotics class. Woohoo! So, gosh, I can't believe we're in week 4, but we have come a long way in everything that we have studied here with robotics, right? So, I'm just going to go back and just quickly review in case you missed any of the weeks and didn't turn in any of the assignments. But during week 1, we started with an introduction and we talked a little bit about the field of robotics. We watched some video clips, and then your homework was to complete the writing assignment if I created a robot, and you were supposed to share the kind of robot that you would create. Then in week 2, we talked about the characteristics of robots, right? And we learned about everything that they need to be able to function and carry out their tasks. And you had a short review sheet for homework, just reviewing the characteristics of robots. And then last week, in week 3, we talked about the reasons for robots, the 4Ds, and we looked at some different examples of robots that fall into those categories and how they can help people, right? And you also had a review sheet for that as well. So hopefully you're all caught up because we are moving on this week, and we are moving on to talking about the 3 laws of robotics. So this is a really important topic, and it's actually very fascinating because it's something that is talked about a lot these days amongst these big robotics companies. They are always discussing the topic of ethics. And I know you guys are in 4th grade, but just to give you a little kind of short summary, as human beings, right? You know, we have in our society, we have certain laws, right, that protect us, that enable us to live freely, right, and to enjoy the country that we live in, and to protect us, right, and to protect us from each other. And so when we are acting in a certain way, for example, stealing something, killing someone, we're breaking the law, right? There is something else called ethics. And ethics can be something where there may not actually be a law for it, but we know in our hearts when something is right and wrong, right? And sometimes we call this morals. And as people who are Christians, right, we all have the Holy Spirit, and that is like our kind of like our guide, right? Like it helps us to know right and wrong. And if you don't have that and you're just living in the world, well, the world, you know, every human being has a conscience, right? Where they know, right? Where they should know, or at least have that feeling of like, gosh, I don't think this is right. And there may not always be a law for something, but we know, right, when something is right and when it's wrong. And sometimes we choose to do the wrong thing, right? And we may not actually end up going to jail, but it can be hurtful to people, and it can be hurtful to ourselves. And the same thing is when we're learning about robots and this field of robotics. We have to stop and think, if we are creating these robots that are now going to become a part of our world, of our life, of our everyday lives, and even giving them intelligence, right? And we briefly spoke about artificial intelligence, which is being able to teach the robot so that it can actually learn things, and then it can know information without us actually telling it again. It can keep building up its information and its knowledge by us teaching and showing it certain things. But as we do that, we have to be responsible. We have to stop and think, gosh, if I'm giving intelligence to a robot, right, of course it can be used for good or bad, right? Like, for example, what if I taught a robot to hate a certain type of person and to just go after them and try to hurt them? Now, that wouldn't be using the robot for good. Or what if I taught the robot that every time it saw, I don't know, a ball, that it picked it up and threw it at somebody, that it sees someone and just throws it at them? It would be hurting somebody, right? But so again, as humans creating robots, we have a lot of power to use the creation for good or to use it for bad. And so we're going to take a look in our lesson today about some laws and just kind of talk about what this looks like. And I have, let me just put this on real quick. I have a cute little video. It's just a 1-minute video, but I'll put it on. It's kind of funny, but it just introduces this topic. Okay, so let me put it on. I'm gonna put this a little bit bigger. Okay, so let me put the video.
Okay, now, let's review the 3 laws of robotics. A robot may not injure a human. A robot must obey all the orders humans give it, unless doing so would break the first law. A robot must protect itself, as long as doing so doesn't make it break the first or second law.
Oh, brother.
Any questions?
I have one. Can we hit other robots?
What do you mean?
I mean, can we do this?
No, not unless...
Okay, what about this then?
I'm gonna wipe your memory, you sizzle brain.
Oh, you want to play?
Stop! Stop! All right, now get this straight. Magnus's first law of robotics. A robot must not act like a total clunkhead.
Guys,
Sorry.
I need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, so that was just a cute little funny video for you guys. But it really does get you to start thinking about, wow, gosh, yeah, you know, when we create robots, we really need to have some sort of a standard here of, you know, what kind of laws are people going to follow as they are creating them. So let me talk about this with you guys for a little bit. So there's a man, his name is Isaac Asimov. And if we go back all the way to the 1940s, he was actually a science fiction writer. And he had some books that he published. And the topics of the books, a lot of the times, we're talking about these man-like machines rule the world, and it would be tales about robots taking over the world, and it really was starting to get people to think about, oh my gosh, yeah, what if these robot creations came and took over the world? And there really was like this, almost like a fear surrounding robots, right? But at the same time, he did have a legit, you know, kind of a thought here. Wait a minute, you know, if robots ever were to be created, how do we know that they won't actually harm people, right? And so he came up with these 3 laws of robotics, and these are things that are they're still talking about them today. And so it really is amazing to see how, you know, somebody took a science fiction idea from the 1930s and was able to come up with these 3 laws that we're still talking about and debating up till now, right? So let's talk about the 3 laws. So you might want to jot them down, or at least jot down in your notebook just a short little, you know, snippet of each of the laws, because your review sheet for homework is going to ask you about this. So number 1 says, a robot may not harm a human through action or inaction, allow a human to come to harm. So that was the first law. So when you think about that, you know, it seems like common sense, right? Yeah, robots shouldn't be hurting people. But again, remember, who's creating the robots? People are creating the robots. And so if you have a person who wants to hurt another person, a group of people, what's stopping them from creating a robot that might do that, right? And so we do have to be aware that, you know, this is something that people need to follow, right, when they're creating robots. Number 2 says a robot must obey the orders given by human beings, except when such orders go against the first law, right? So again, we are controlling the robots, right? We're the ones who are programming the robots, and we should be programming them for good. And so the robot needs to obey what we put in there. But if it's something that the person is putting in where it's harmful, then obviously, again, it should not be something that is allowed. And then number 3 says a robot must protect its own existence as long as it does not go against or conflict with the first or second laws, meaning that the robot can't harm a human, right? And so it's really just interesting to learn about these and to just hear them. And it really does get you to start thinking, wow, yeah. When you think about all the robots out there, gosh, we really do need to make sure that anything that we're creating is going to be used to help people, make their lives better, that it's not going to harm any humans, right? So some things for you guys to start thinking about. So I just wanted to share this. You do not need to write this down, this slide. The only reason I put this slide on there is because I wanted you guys to see how going from the 1930s to the year 2011, they are still talking about this today. And this is from an engineering and physical science research council. So these are people that research robots, and they're constantly thinking about these fields. And some of the things they're talking about, if you look, it says robots should not be designed to kill or harm humans. And then it says humans, not robots, are responsible agents. Meaning that what? Who's creating the robots? The human has to take responsibility for the creation, right? Robots should be designed in a way where they're safe and secure, right? And it should always be possible to find out who actually is legally responsible for the robot. So who actually created it. And robots should not be designed where they are, making somebody be dependent on them, where the human really needs it. It has some sort of an addictive nature, because that would be harmful to a human, right? So again, it's really interesting and fascinating to see talking about this in 2011. And let me just show you one more slide. This is from 2016. This is the CEO of Microsoft. So everybody knows PowerPoint, Word, Excel. The company that created those programs is Microsoft, and they are a super big technology company in Seattle, Washington, and founded by Bill Gates. And their current CEO in 2016 came up with some laws here to think about when working with robots, and specifically when we talk about artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is giving intelligence to something that isn't a human like us, right? We're actually teaching robots so that they can think and make decisions on their own and make choices on their own. And so some of the things that he brings up here is that robots must be designed to actually help humanity, right? Actually help people. That the humans, they must know and be able to understand how the robot works. Meaning that like the robot shouldn't be doing all these things that a human is like, oh my gosh, what is this robot doing? I don't know how to stop it, right? A robot should be able to actually be trustworthy in what it's doing, meaning that if it has a task that's set out for it, that we can trust that it's going to do that task and not do anything else, right? And that humans can be able to undo anything that might be, that the robot might do that they didn't intend for it to do. And then that the robots aren't going to discriminate against people in any ways, right? So these are some things that the CEO of Microsoft was thinking about. And it's fascinating to see. This is from 2016. So people are thinking about these things because they are very important in the field of robotics. And as this being, this is like an introduction course to robotics that we're doing with you guys. And I know you're in 4th grade, so obviously I'm not expecting you to be like writing some dissertation research paper on the laws of robotics. No way. But I do want to mention it to you guys only because, I think it's something worth talking about and spending at least one class just having a Well, I'm talking, but I wish we could have a discussion because it'd be a lot better if I could hear your thoughts on this and kind of see what you're thinking about it. But if you're somebody who loves technology and you want to go into the field of robotics, then yes, I absolutely would want you to start thinking about this in your creation, that you're like, yeah, people need to think about how, the robots are going to be interacting with other people, that they're actually going to be created for good and not bad, right? So something for you guys to think about. And for your homework, I do have a question for you guys here. So what I ask you to do on the review sheet, so you should type this up, is type up the 3 laws. And then my question for you is, do you believe it is important to have laws surrounding the fields of robotics? Why or why not? Share your thoughts. So like about 3 or 4 sentences. I would just like to hear everybody's thoughts on this, just after doing this lesson. How do you feel about that? Do you think that, yes, just like we have laws with everything else, right? We have traffic laws, right? If you go through the red light, you get pulled over, you get a ticket. If you're driving too fast, you get a ticket. If you break into a building and steal stuff, yeah, you get arrested, you go to jail. We have laws for everything, right? And even we have standards for things, right? Like even when you're at school, what would be some standards that we have? Well, we know that it's unacceptable to look over and cheat and copy someone else's work, right? We know that if you're working on a paper or you're writing something, you can't just copy work out of the internet or from the textbook. That's plagiarism. That's taking someone else's work and pretending it's your own. So we do have standards that we live our life by. So do you guys believe it's important to have these same things when we're creating robots? That's my question for you guys this week. So I'll be really excited to hear your responses. So again, if you open up this, you can just type the answers in here and then you can just email it to me. Okay, and that would be the best way to complete the assignment. You can also, if you want to just copy and paste, you can do copy. You can paste this into a Google Doc and then you can just share it with me. So you guys remember inside your Google Drive, right? You can always just go to new, blank document, and then you can paste, and then you can type everything in here and just hit the share button and just share it with me. So obviously this is part of technology class, which is why I'm asking you to type things, because I want you to become more comfortable typing your assignments and being able to do things digitally, right, using technology, okay? All right, guys, so if you have any questions on this, let me know. Otherwise, I'll be looking forward to reading your responses. And if you're behind on anything, just send them in as soon as possible. Alrighty? Okay, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.